Morning. Good morning. Welcome to our family meeting. And today we're talking about cyberbullying. Good morning, wherever you're joining from. Good morning. My name is Dr. Vivian Okoye, and I am your host today, this morning, and this is our family meeting. If you have been a community member, if you have been an attendee of Parent Summit Africa, if you have been part of our community and the Conscious Parenting Academy, if you have been part of our network and at the Minds and Wellbeing Network, if you've attended any of our programs, we have a community online on WhatsApp, Telegram, and across social media, if I say so. And we call this Saturday Meet our family meeting, where we come together to talk about some of our challenges and to really have chill conversations around how to navigate these challenges around parenting, around mental health struggles, around raising our children. And today we're talking about cyberbullying, right? We're talking about cyberbullying. And if this is our first time of meeting, my name is Dr. Vivian Okoye. I am a mental health therapist. I've had a span of experiences over 12 years. And essentially, in summary, what I do is I create experiences, whether be it through my speaking, through my books, through my programs, through my classes. I create experiences where, young minds are nurtured, right? Old minds are healed. I create experience that helps you awaken your dream and helps you to live fully in your calling, in your purpose, and to live authentically as yourself, just the way that God would have you do, and to raise children who will do the same as well. So in summary, that is who I am. I'm also a mother like you, and I am your host this morning. And I just really wanted us to just touch base with cyberbullying, because it's one of those things that gets brushed over, right? But we don't realize how much impact cyberbullying can have, especially on young people, on our young teenagers, young adults who are just, starting to experience the digital space. More independently, and even the young ones whom we think that we are supervising. So, for example, for the young ones whom we think, or they're just using their devices to just play games or to watch Minecraft or to watch or to play Roblox and stuff like that. We think, oh, cyberbullying will not be on that space because it's not social media, because it's not an interactive space or platform. Yeah, but cyberbullying happens across platform. And for some of us, we might be thinking, well, cyberbullying is not something I should really be interested in because my young person doesn't have a device yet. That is what we think, but cyberbullying can also happen even if your young person doesn't have a device. So, for example, if your young person is in a school, they don't have a device, but the people who have devices have created a group, and in that group, your young person is being talked about, and then your young person gets to hear what is being said about them in that secret group or in that private group that has been created to talk about people like him or her. That is also cyberbullying, right? And your young person can also be involved in cyberbullying even if they don't have a device. So if they have a friend who has a device and they are sitting with their friend and telling their friend what to write, what to post, what to say about somebody, or to bully somebody online, then they're also engaging in that act, even if they don't have a device, right? So um when we talk about digital safety, when we talk about all of the challenges and all of the experiences that our children might have in the digital space, there are a lot of us who feel like, because for example, my kids don't have personal phones, but even at that, there are still safety precautions that you need to take as far as your children watch things online. You have any smart devices, including your phone, your TV, your smart TV. I was watching my I was watching YouTube. I was watching something on YouTube recently, and an ad came up on YouTube. And that ad was even so scary for me. It was so gory and so scary and traumatizing for me, and as an adult. And I imagined how what it would be like for a young person, right? And that's when we start going into your settings and all of that, which are some of the things I shared in my book, right? I shared about like platform specific settings that you need to put in place, you know, if you have young people around you. There was one I shared recently for teenagers, for your YouTube, for their YouTube. If your teenagers or your child is accessing YouTube, you know, a setting that you can use. I shared this on my is on my Instagram, and it's also on this book, right? So it's really, really important. I say all of that to help us have an open mind and to not close our mind and say, oh, this is not for me. This conversation is not for me because XYZ, right? Our children are born in the digital age, and you know, you just want to have as much information, as not as much knowledge, because technology is growing like the speed of light. Even us who are writing books on these things have to keep our breasts, right? So for example, there would be a volume 2 of this book that would be strictly on talking about AI and the dangers of AI for our children and how our children engage AI and what we should look out for and what we should learn. So technology is moving like the speed of light. So we also need to, you know, catch up with what is going on. Right. So that brings me to the conversation. What is cyberbullying? What is cyberbullying? You know, and why is it important that we talk about it? Right. Cyberbullying is just like it is bullying, you know, harassing someone, you know, making someone uncomfortable. But in this case, it is online, and that makes it worse, right? So if it is bullying that is happening physically in school, at least your child, you know, can um see the person, address the person, deal with it. Sometimes online or cyberbullying, your child may not have access to the person. Your child may not even know who the person is, because it could be someone sitting on their keypad. It could even be a fake account of someone they know. So they may not be able to know how to address it unless we equip them on how. And there are different types of cyberbullying. When we talk about cyberbullying, one of the things that come to mind to us is maybe when people are trolled, when people are called out on social media and stuff like that, right? But there are different layers to cyberbullying. There are different layers to cyberbullying. Yes, there's the trolling. Yes, there's the using fake accounts to, you know, harass somebody online. Yes, there is the denigration, posting harmful things or untrue things. And this happens in, you know, teenage years, in their age group, right? There's the one of posting videos. You know, young people can decide to make a video of someone, maybe when they're in an embarrassing situation or when they're sleeping and stuff like that. Maybe they're sleeping and keeping their eye open, their mouth open. You know, they record it and then they share it in their group, and people are passing it around and they're laughing. That is cyberbullying, right? um there is the one of maybe sharing personal information. Maybe a young person shared a personal information with somebody, and then they go and put it in a WhatsApp group, or they go and share it online, right? There's the one of seclusion, when, you know, maybe there's a class WhatsApp group, and then some people in the class decide that a young person, a particular young person, because of a particular reason, cannot be part of that WhatsApp group or that friendship group, secluding them. That is cyberbullying. Sharing photos without consent, That is cyberbullying. If I took a picture with you, or if you took a picture of me, and I don't like how I look in that picture, and I tell you, I don't want this picture online, and you go and post that picture online, that is cyberbullying, right? Sometimes young people would take the details of another young person, post it online, and get people to start calling them and start harassing them. That is cyberbullying, right? I mean, the UK, one of the ones that happen here is, young people calling the emergency line of police, or emergency services, and sending them to an address of a young person, and stuff like that. That is extreme, extreme, extreme cyberbullying, right? Damaging someone's reputation, saying that someone did something they didn't do, and posting that online, canvassing for people to dislike someone's post, canvassing for people to dislike someone's video, canvassing for people to make negative comments on someone's posts. That is cyberbullying, right? Encouraging somebody. And I'm sharing all of these things so that you can have an idea. When you hear cyberbullying, you just don't think, oh, my child is not on social media. It could be that your child is in a class group of people who are on social media, and they talk about these things, and they're engaging in those conversations, and they're, oh, let me see the comment, let me see the comment, write this, do this, text this. They're involved in that whole process of cyberbullying, right? And if you're saying, oh, my child is not on social media, like social media yet, but what my child does is gaming, right? In the gaming, when we talk about like platform specific bullying, when it comes to gaming, there are people who also bully people on that platform. So for example, there could be, if it's a gaming app that uses the voice effects, right, where you have to talk, because there are some gaming platforms where you have to talk while you're playing. There are some people who become verbally abusive while they are playing games. That is cyberbullying. There are some people who do what they call intentional team killing on the gaming platform. If you have children who play games, talk to them about this. That is cyberbullying, because some of this, right, might be happening to your children. They feel bad about it, but they don't even realize that they are being bullied, right? And sometimes, because of how you have positioned yourself as a parent who is not digitally aware, your children do not even know how to come to you with these conversations, because they feel like you would not understand. So I'm speaking about gaming now because I have a peripheral knowledge of gaming. None of my children are really into gaming as much, but I've had conversation with gaming people, some of whom I will bring to the Parent Summit Africa this year. And some, because of the process of writing this book, I had to speak with a few professionals, and um, you know, um you have to create that awareness. You have to let your child know that you're aware of some of these things, and that's the only way that they can bring those conversations with you. So if my child feels like I'm too old school to understand what happens on a gaming app when they play their games, or if I haven't shown any interest in their game apps, if they're being bullying on that platform, they would not know how to express it to me, because they would outrightly feel like I would not understand what they're trying to explain to me, right? The sun just came out and my face became really bright. All my spots are out. It's fine. Anyways, so that's what that's why I'm really taking time to share with us these different types of what cyberbullying might look like. So I want you, at the end of this conversation, to really sit down and have a conversation with your children. Talk about these different types of cyberbullying and ask them if they have experienced any of them before. And if you don't see, everything I'm sharing is on this book. So if you haven't gotten it, you check the caption of this video. At the end of the video, you will have the link to get it. We're even sharing a free first chapter of the book. So also download that free first chapter. It will be very insightful for you. So sit down, have a conversation with your children and ask them if they have experienced any of this, or if they have been involved in meting out any of this to somebody else, and then explain to them that these behaviors or these treatments on other people is actually not can is actually cyberbullying. When you're excluding someone, you know, when you're talking about somebody on a group chat or on a platform, when you're canvassing to you massively dislike someone's, or you're campaigning, to massively dislike someone's content, to make negative comments, or to share an embarrassing picture or video of them online, you know, things like that, right? Really talk to them, ask them if they have been involved in anything like that. And the thing about cyberbullying also is that the impact is so deep that we don't even realize how far it goes, because young people seek for validation, whether we like it or not. That is a normal need of a human being, right? Apart from your need for food and stuff, the next thing a human being needs is the need for belonging. Every human being wants to find their people, wants to feel a sense of belonging, want to feel a sense of validation, a sense of attachment, right? So because this is a natural, especially in the developmental years, when our young people are still trying to figure themselves out and find out what they want and what they don't want, and try to find their own values and stuff, they are really, really vulnerable, right? So it takes a lot for a young person to put themselves out there. Even you, that is an adult, imagine when you put out a post, right, and someone doesn't like it. How do you feel? Then imagine when you put out a post and people come under your post and make negative comments. Imagine when you find out that a group of your friends are in a WhatsApp group, are on Snapchat, or in a Facebook group, or anywhere, and they're talking about you, and you feel like these people are my peers, but you don't belong to that group, and you now find out that you're being spoken about in that group. So cyberbullying takes a toll on a young person's psyche, on their confidence, on their self-esteem, that they start to question themselves, right? So they start to second guess themselves. They start, especially if the foundation have not been right, they start to second guess themselves. They start to feel like there's something wrong with them. They start to withdraw, and all of that. So it's really, really important, right? And this takes us back to everything that we always talk about. It's really, really important that the foundation is right. Because will cyberbullying or any form of bullying at all affect a young person? It will. It even affects adults. It affects your confidence. It affects your mental health. For in extreme cases, it can lead to depression. I have seen instances where it even led to death, right? And it can escalate really quickly. So it would affect a young person, but a young person with the right foundation will take it. It will be it will have a lesser impact on them than it will have on a young person who is already struggling to feel validated at home, if you get what I mean, right? So because all of this, what makes the children vulnerable to some of this is that need, need to get validation, needs to be accepted, needs to be wanted, needs to feel among, right? But if your child doesn't have, every young person, even an adult, has that need to feel among, to feel validated. It takes a lot of training as an adult for us to then say, oh, I don't care about what people think about me. I don't care if I'm accepted. I don't care if I'm invited. I don't care. Even now, there are some things that happen. Maybe someone has an event and they don't invite you, but they invite your other friends. You still feel like, okay, why didn't they invite me? Is there something wrong, right? So imagine what it would be for a child. So we all have that innate need, right? And that is why we need to be, and this is one of the ways to actually prevent, the impact of cyberbullying, the negative impact of cyberbullying on your child. It is important that you are meeting that needs. You're feeling that need, you're feeling that gap for your child every day at home, so that they are grounded in who they are. They feel really, really confident and really, really validated in who they are. There's a saying or a quote that I had seen, a long time ago, and it stuck with me. And that quote said that you should, as a parent, that you should fill your child's confident bucket, so much so that when they go out in the world, that no matter how much holes are poked in that confidence, that they will still have enough left to carry them through. And that is really, really profound, because will the world make you second guess yourself? Right, yes. Will events make you second guess yourself? Right. Will people say things and do things to you that will make you feel like, am I really who I think I am? Yes. Things would happen. So let's not even bury our head in the sand and feel like, oh, I've raised an amazing child. Nothing can ever. Mm-mm. Even you, as their mother and father, listening to me, you have instances at work, with relationships, so, out in the world, that make you feel like, second guess yourself and feel a little bit like your self-esteem has taken a hit, right? So it's really, really important. This is the number one way of preventing your child from being stuck in that cycle of cyberbullying, because it's a loop, right? It's really a loop. When a child starts being bullied, what happens is that they think that if they do more, they would be accepted, right? Oh, maybe it's because that picture was not fine. That's why people are, doing XYZ, or saying XYZ about it. Maybe if I shared a little bit more sexy picture, maybe if I left my body open a bit, maybe if I looked like them more, maybe if I did what other people are doing or what other young people are doing, or maybe if I did more of what my peers are doing, maybe they would accept me, they would not bully me as much. So it's really a dark hole that if you don't really address it, your child will keep falling into that hole. And the truth is that if they're not accepted, they're not accepted. And the more they fall into that hole, the more they fall into the anxiety, the depression, the low self-confidence that comes with it. So it's really, really important. Everything comes back to the home. Everything comes back to the relationship that we have with our child. Everything comes back with how we make our children feel. I don't doubt it. If you're here, you love your child. I don't doubt it. If you're here, you are a great parent. But my question is, does your child feel that way? Because it is one thing to love your child, but it is another thing for your child to feel that they are loved. I've seen in my work, and I work with a lot of parents, I've seen in my work many parents who love their children, who are actively doing what they think they should do to show their children love. But in the next room, when you have a conversation with the child doesn't feel that they are loved. So it's really, really important that you understand that foundation of, what does love mean to my child? What does validation mean to my child? What do I have to do with my child to help them know that I love them unconditionally, to help them know that no matter what, they mean so much to me, to let them know that they are accepted. Because sometimes it's even in our bid to feel like we're pushing our children to attain the best, that we say and do things that make them feel like they are not accepted, like they don't belong. When the expectations are too much, the child starts questioning, am I good enough? Am I really accepted in this space? And then they start seeking to be accepted in other spaces. And then it exposes them to all of these, things, to people who don't really like them for who they are, to people who would do things to them and bully them. Right? So it's really, really important. And this is a reflection for all of us. I speak to you as I speak to myself, because we are in a time that is really, really delicate. We're in a time. So we're in a time where you're no longer worried about where your child is going to or who they're speaking to, because you have your eyes on them. We are in a time where your child can be in their room and they're being harassed. They can be in your home and under your nose, and they're being harassed. They're being manipulated, right? So it's really, really a delicate time, and it really calls for all of us to really be reflective, to be attentive, to be curious, and to always reevaluate what we're doing and always try to get feedback from the people. You cannot parent a child without feedback. So it's just like, I always, when I talk about parenting, yeah, I always relate it to business, right? It's just like creating a product or creating a service for users, but you're not getting the feedback of the users on what they want and how they want it. You would probably not create a great product, right? So if you are parenting a child, as they grow, as they have a voice, as they can articulate what they want and what they need, it's good to get feedback about, how they feel about the way that you are interacting and engaging with them. And it's not to say that they determine and they determine everything you do, but it helps you get into their head. It helps you understand how they think, their thought process, and it helps you tweak, the things that you do. And I say all of that to say that the greatest gift or the greatest protection that we can give to our children is to help them know that home is safe. Is to help them know that this is your space. Is to help them know is that this is where you can be yourself. Is to help them know that here, no matter what you do, no matter, the mistakes you make, you are loved, right? Your child should know that beyond reasonable doubt. They shouldn't second guess it. Your child shouldn't come home and feel like I need to be a certain type of way to be accepted. I need to do certain type of things to earn love. Yeah. Are you going to groom your child to do the right things? Yes, but they should be comfortable to be messy as well. You see, that's what safe spaces do for us. Because if they are not safe in that space called home, they are vulnerable outside. Not just to cyberbullying, they are vulnerable. I tell you, they are vulnerable to see the things that my eyes saw in the process of writing this book and in the research. They are vulnerable to a lot of things that you may not even be aware of. Yeah. They're vulnerable to cyberbullying, they're vulnerable to predators, they're vulnerable to peer influence, just in search of that belonging, in search of that, where am I going to be accepted? Where am I going to be loved unconditionally? Where am I going to be heard and seen and validated? So, the first step to actually protecting our children from cyberbullying is creating that home atmosphere where they feel very, very seen, very, very heard, very, very validated. And there is no pass mark as to how much you need to keep growing, right? You need to keep reaccessing. With each different age, it means different things, right? So you need to keep having those conversations. See, this book, lots of conversations in this book, lots of prompts, lots of templates, and all of that. Please get the book if you haven't. Then the second thing you need to do, I have talked about how we need to be digitally aware of ourselves, in ourselves, right? Be digitally aware of what the dangers are, how the dangers show up, and then have those conversations with our children, right? Because then in having those conversations, you're also equipping them on how to respond. How do you respond to a bully? How do you respond when someone says, oh, excuse me, sorry. How do you respond when someone treats you this way? How do you respond when someone tells you this? Right? Again, all of that in this book, right? Because many times people say things, mean things, and do mean things to our young people and even to us, right? You could, like, there are things I see on social media and I'm like, you know, how are you not seeing that this is bullying? How are you not seeing that this person is trying to insult you? How are you not seeing that this person is manipulating you? Right? But different people come from different backgrounds, or different people have been told that some things are acceptable. The same thing that your child is watching you, right? Your child is watching what you accept and what you don't accept, and that forms a baseline for them as well for what they accept. So if you allow yourself to be spoken poorly to, like people say things to you and you don't set your boundaries, anybody can say anything and do anything to you and get away with it. You're telling your child or the young people around you that it's okay to be treated that way, right? So beyond helping them feel seen, feel heard, feel validated, then you need to have the right conversations. Again, all of those things I shared at the beginning of this live broadcast, bringing them into a conversation to say, actually, have you experienced this? Has anybody done this to you? Or have you been involved in any of this? Right. And then that's when you start the education. That's actually cyberbullying, and you don't have to be part of it. And if you have experienced it, tell me about it. How does it make you feel? And then you're unpacking all of that. You know, it also creates a space for your child to say, oh, my mom knows about this. My mom knows about how, that this actually affects me. And then I can talk to them about it, right? Because many times young people, some of them are even embarrassed because they can't put words to it. So how would I say that? And because someone made a comment on my this and it's making me feel sad. And for us parents, we also don't help it, because when they come to us with those kind of conversation, we're like, I beg, I beg, I beg. Is it because your age mates did this to you? And no. When you do that, it doesn't take away how they feel about it. And in fact, what you have just done is that you have shut them out. And if that experience doesn't end, the impact will not end, and it can go further to affect your child's mental health. So, again, safe spaces, right? Where conversations are not shut out, where your child is not gaslighted, right? Really taking their complaints seriously when they bring it to you, and understanding how those experiences are making them feel, and really taking reasonable action to help them feel better. Do you get what I mean? So it's really, really important, those conversations. And like I said, in this book, I have loads of conversations around online experiences, what to say to your child, and how to say it, the instances where you need to report. Who do you need to report to? How should that report go, in terms of, for example, if it's the bullying or cyberbullying that is happening in school, how to go through that. Because one of the things that worries your child as well is, well, if it's a cyberbullying that is happening in a school group, I don't want to report to my mom. They will now call me a snitch because my mom will come into school and then make a fuss about it. How do we navigate all of that? Right? These are the things that we want to, think about, we want to address, and involving our children and collaboratively coming up with our plan, right? But that is, conversations that you need to have. Then there is also, if it's a cyberbullying that isn't in a school group and stuff, cyberbullying that are platform specifics. For example, the one I shared about the gaming platform, then that comes into, conversations you have around, you know, settings, right? What settings, privacy settings should you have? On your apps and stuff, who should you allow, who should you accept if it's a multiplayer game platform. What are your rules around, the people you accept? What are your rules around multiplayer games? Depending on the age of your child, are they allowed to play multiplayer games? you know um what are the conversations around, when to block someone, right? When to unfriend someone, when to totally, do they even know where the block button is, right? Depending on, because sometimes I've spoken to young people who feel like, oh, this person is doing XYZ with me, and I'm saying, okay, why can't you block off the person? And they're looking at me like, I can do that. Yeah, you can do that. So these are conversations that you need to have with your children. It's actually okay to block somebody, set boundary, and say, actually, I don't feel like engaging with you is beneficial with me on this platform, so I'm going to block you, right? And even in real life, you can actually set that boundary and say, well, every time I talk to you, it makes me feel XYZ, so I prefer not to, right? So conversations that you need to have, upskilling that you need to do as a parent to even be aware of what is going on, and the upskilling you have to do with your child to learn how to set boundaries, to learn the setting of their devices or the different platforms that they are on, so that they can avoid those people or those kind of people to have access to them. And in extreme cases, who do you need to report to? I have had extreme cases of cyberbullying that needed to even go to the police outside of um school. If school is not doing anything, it can be escalated, right? Depending on, the country that you find yourself in. But it's always like the parents' decision, right? Because I've also seen instances where parents don't want to put their child through that. But your child needs to see that you're fighting for them. Your child needs to see that you understand what they're going through. Your child needs to see that you are with them, regardless of what your decision is or how far you want to take, that experience. How far you want to take that experience. But if someone, I am of the opinion, and this is a personal opinion, that if someone comes after your child in that way, that it affects their mental health, then that person has to be stopped. So this is a personal opinion. Some people might not agree with it. Some people would feel like, oh, I don't want to go through that whole process, but I have a very strong sense of justice. So I would pursue it to any length to make sure that that person is stopped. And then I want to see my child see that you don't just take anything, right? Don't just allow people to treat you anyhow, right? So, in summary, cyberbullying can happen to your child whether they have a device or whether they don't have a device. As far as they have friends who have devices and they're attending school, they're in a friendship group with other young people who have devices, they could be victims or perpetrators of cyberbullying. So you need to put your eyes down and to really understand if any of that is going on. And then we talked about different types of cyberbullying. And then we talked about what we need to do to protect our children. And one of the things we said is getting the foundation right, and that is in creating a home atmosphere where your child feels seen, heard, and validated, because we feel like, or we know, not we feel like, we know that it is that need for validation that drives our children, or that predisposes our children, or that makes our children vulnerable to cyberbullying, right? So we really want to create this home atmosphere and spaces where our child feels seen, heard, validated, so that regardless of what happens outside, even if someone attempted to bully them, they can still be confident enough to still navigate, right? Because it is when a child is not being validated that if those things happen to them, it sweeps them off their feet. It really impacts them in a very, very negative way. So, really, really important that we do that. Then we talked about conversations that we need to have with our children to ensure that, you know, they know what cyberbullying is, and they know what to look out for, and they know how to respond, and they know when to come to us, and we're making them feel comfortable that we understand what is going on in that space, comfortable enough to come to us. Because there is that divide, in the sense that our children can feel like we're not digitally in touch, that they feel like they cannot come to us with the struggles they have in the digital space. So you don't want to position yourself as that kind of parent who is not digitally in touch, right? So really be in touch and have those conversations and open up those conversations so that our children, can open up to us, share their struggles. It even gives us more insight as to what we need to help them with. And then we need to teach them skills around setting boundaries online, how to accept friends, who to accept, who to engage with, when to block, people off, if they're harassing them. And finally, how to escalate. What do we need to do if a problem has happened? Where did it happen? How did it happen? Who do we report to? Who can we talk to about it? And how do we escalate, right? And beyond all of that, pay attention to what is happening with your child. Like I said earlier, cyberbullying can impact your child's mental health. So if you feel like this experience has impacted your child's self-confidence, your child's mental health and well-being in any way, then get your child professional help, because your child's well-being is the primary thing, right? And when we talk about mental health and well-being of children, your child can still be all right and masking and say, oh, mommy, everything is fine, and still going through stuff. Again, bringing us back to that need for connection, because it is when you're connected that you can see that something is off and that your child needs help, right? So we all need to pay attention. I speak to you as I speak to myself. We all need to pay attention. We all need to do what we need to do to really keep our children safe in this time and age, right? The digital age. The fight is different, and you cannot come to a new fight with old fighting technique. So we have to keep upping our game, we have to keep building our skills, and we have to keep showing up, right? So thank you for showing up. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. If you have any questions, please drop it and I would see it and respond to it, right? In the meantime, I would encourage all of us to try to get this book, right? We have the paperback on Amazon. You can also read it on Seller. If you're in Nigeria, you can buy the read online on Seller. Um, if you're in Nigeria and you want the paperback, just send me a message, because I have someone coming to Nigeria very soon in July. So it might be that I would be able to get a few copies of Amazon and send to some of you all in Nigeria. I'll put that in our chat as well. But if you're in Nigeria, you can also get it on Seller. And I also encourage you, we have a summer boot camp coming up for teenagers between the ages of 10 and 17. And we're talking digital safety, confidence, self leadership, mental health, right? At self advocacy. So if you have a young person between the ages of um 10 and 17, please sign them up. It's a 4 weeks boot camp throughout August. So whether your child is in boarding school, anywhere they are in the world, they can actually join that program. And it's currently just 25,000 until the 10th of June when it goes back to 35,000. So if I were you, I would take advantage of that early bird and sign up your child for that boot camp. It would be a 4 weeks boot camp. We're talking digital safety skills, self confidence, self esteem, self leadership, self advocacy, and mental health and well being support. So, in the absence of any questions, I think we'll call it a day. We have done 45 minutes, and I think that's really good, even though I felt like I was talking to myself all the while. Thank you for joining. Thank you for showing up, and I would see you next time during our family meeting. All right. Thank you. Bye.